Okay, now I'm done talking to the whole world. I have a few quick things to say to the people here. First of all, welcome to Anarchapulco. Yeehaw. I have two pieces of advice. One is, I think I've done some good examples of how to do this myself. And the second piece of advice is one in which I'm horrible at it. Don't do what I do. So, we'll start with this. So many people think inside the normal political paradigm that when the Republican side of authoritarian collectivism sees me disagreeing with them, they assume I'm a libtard, commie, blah, 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 blah. And when the liberals see me disagreeing with their flavor of authoritarian collectivism, they decide I'm a fascist or something. But my favorite insult comes from people who, for the most part, at least pretend to be freedom. My favorite insult is, you're a purist. You're one of those crazy people who doesn't want to initiate violent aggression against anyone, not even brown people down in Mexico. Yep, that's me, guilty as charged. If you're not a purist, you're not really going to make a difference. If you're not going all the way to trying to uproot the belief in authority, what's the point? You're just bickering over what flavor of domination we're going to have. I mean, imagine back in the days of abolitionists trying to end slavery if there were non-purist abolitionists. Well, I mean, I'm not going to be so extreme to say slavery is bad and we should do away with it entirely. I'm just going to say maybe they should be treated a little better. Ew. If you're not a purist opposing the fundamental nature of authoritarian evil, then you're an advocate of authoritarian evil. You just want a slightly nicer one. And that makes you basically an enemy of freedom. You've probably all heard the quote, there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil to one striking at its root. I think that's Henry David Thoreau, and I see that all over the place. Now, we all have our own priorities and projects and things we focus on, and I'm not expecting everybody to, you should focus on exactly what I focus on. But in addition to whatever particular issues you're concerned with and whatever things you're trying to accomplish yourself, I would urge you to spend some time striking at the root of authoritarianism. And don't be bashful about it. Don't water it down. Don't say you want less taxation. That's like saying you want less slavery. I want zero. Not a little bit, not pretty much, not less than the other candidates. Zero. If you're not advocating for zero theft, you're advocating for theft. Don't do that. The good news, Benny was up here talking about building bridges. The vast majority of people you talk to, they are not the enemy. Crap they have been taught is the enemy. That is what you have to go after. That is what you have to try to change. And if you view them as if, well, you have this belief system which makes you the bad guy, they're going to know you view them that way and they're not going to want to hear anything you have to say. So I'm all in favor of building bridges and trying to free people from the lie that is holding down the real them. Now, I did this talk doing mostly questions, which is a really weird way to do a speech. I much prefer having a one-on-one in-person conversation, like using the methods that Amanda and I teach in Candles in the Dark, where they can actually answer and you can get into what they believe and bring it out of them. But it's kind of hard to do that on a stage. But when you look at them as the enemy, you completely miss the problem and completely miss the solution. I'm very proud of my book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, and I've had a lot of people tell me that it changed their lives. Incidentally, I thought I'd have 200 copies of it here to sell. I have way less, and some of them are in bad shape. But if you find me out wherever the tables are, I do have a few here. But the people who read that and said, wow, this really changed my point of view, none of them said, wow, I really advocated evil and this talked me into being good. Nobody thinks they're the bad guy. Nobody thinks that their belief system is the messed up one until they dare to look at it like I did. I used to be a statist. And so if you talk to the real them that already knows this stuff, they're not people who think, yeah, it's perfectly fine to just violently attack people and steal their stuff. There may be a few sociopaths who think that. Just try to avoid them. The rest of humanity, they don't need to be talked into it. They need to be shown that what they really are and what they really believe has been buried underneath layers of authoritarian propaganda and indoctrination. And you need to help bring them out of that. I also have a book called The Iron Web, which is now back in print, finally. And someday I hope that thing will be a movie, because that would be great fun. Part of the audiobook of that was made into the video online under the title Message to the Voting Cattle. And the people who made that, I didn't even make that. I said, yeah, that's fine if you do it. You're probably just going to offend people because it's not a gentle part of the book. It's very in your face. But yeah, go ahead. And they took out everything in the story, so you just hear it as part of a speech. I was amazed by the number of people who, and some of them commented right on YouTube, right in public, said, wow, I felt so guilty because it was me. It was absolutely describing my own cowardice and my own lack of principles. I didn't nearly expect that because it's pretty rude and in your face. But I point that out because those people are realizing the real them inside was betrayed by their own indoctrination and their own belief system. Genuinely evil, malicious people, you're not going to talk them out of it. How many of us here were statists once upon a time? Almost all of us. Were you evil at the time? Or were you just misguided and indoctrinated? We have to remember that about the people we're talking to. Deep down inside, they know better, which is why you can get there just using questions. And I'll do some shameless self-promotion. That's what Candles in the Dark is all about. Is having been an anarchist now for 23 years, I very slowly, by trial and error and error and error and error and error, learned a whole lot about human psychology, and there are ways to have discussions with normal people out there that don't immediately become an argument, and don't ever become an argument, and don't become emotional and confrontational. It does require training yourself and keeping a check on your own psychology. Now, it was sort of put up last minute, but we are having the last in-person Candles in the Dark seminar here on the 17th and 18th, right after Anarchapulco ends. If you go to the ticket page of Anarchapulco and scroll all the way down to the bottom, because there's a bunch of different little sub-events, you can still get tickets there. This is the last one we're going to be doing in person. I also wanted to mention, thanks mostly to Case and Bryden, there is now an online version of Candles in the Dark at attendcandles.com. And many thanks to Kaysen for making that happen, and Patrick Smith. Yep. Kaysen says so. It's true. And there's also, it's just up as of right now. I haven't even been on it on my own website yet because it's just up right now. Again, thanks to Kaysen. We have therosechannel.com, which will have Candles in the Dark and the new audiobook of The Most Dangerous Superstition, which Patrick Smith recorded. We're getting there. I'm not sure if it's all the way done, but it's very close. Excellent. It's done. The guy who should know says so. And a bunch of other ongoing materials we're going to be producing there, so you can check that out too. I wanted to show the new beginning of The Mirror, which is the massive program I've been working on for ages. And of the million or so things that have gone wrong for me in the last few days and weeks, one thing was my computer crashed in the middle of a render, so right now it's sitting in my hotel room rendering the last 20 frames, so we couldn't show it here. Hopefully I'll find a way to sneak it to people or show it at some point, somewhere. And that, anybody who wants to support that is by far the biggest project I'm going to do in my entire life. It's already been 7 years in the making, and when it's done, it'll be given away for free, so it's the worst thing in the world to invest in if you want to get paid back. And I'm investing massive amounts of my time and effort into it to get nothing back. Yay. And that brings me to my second point of advice. The first one is make sure you're striking at the root, at least part-time. My second part of advice is the one I'm really bad at. Do what you can to keep yourself free, happy, and prosperous. I kind of suck at the prosperous side. Mostly Amanda keeps me happy. And that's way better than money anyway. But unlike me, who sucks at monetizing what I do, I'm working on it, and Kaysen's working on making me better at that. You need to find a balance. And I think this is important, and I think it's a challenge to any of us who really care about this so much that we want to focus on this. You know, we see how important it is. Finding the balance between helping others to find freedom and peace and happiness, and allowing yourself to be free and content and prosperous and at peace. And I know just on the psychological side, when we're focused on all the evil going on in the world, so often it can be a humongous downer, and it can make you desperate and angry. I've been there for years. And so it's sort of this, it's always a challenge to fight the evil without letting the evil tear you down, because, you know, like Jeff was talking about, it's big. It's a big, big evil, doing big, big evil things. And it's a challenge remaining prosperous and happy while trying to tear down the beast that you know day after day is victimizing people. So I'm pretty proud of some of my accomplishments as far as hacking at the root of evil. Yes. But I suck at the second one, which is not being broke and sleep deprived and all that fun stuff. But anyway, once again, welcome to Anarchapulco, and pardon me while I go fall over and pass out and recover from the last week.